I operate the Complete Health Rewire, designed to help people really elevate themselves in the space of family, health, and growth. I'd gone through anxiety, depression, a poor relationship with alcohol. I love the fact that I've gone through these challenges and I am strong enough and vulnerable enough to actually talk about it.
Hi, welcome to Changing Suits. My name's Bal.
And my name's Taj.
Before we start, I always have to do an intro. We haven't recorded in quite a while, so I feel out of practice. So, Juggy, to our guest, I've just said, if we go off on a tangent, just reel us back in. You can be the host. In today's episode, we have a very special guest. His name is Juggy Sidhu, who is the Indian Body Coach. Now, I think from the title, it pretty much says what it needs to say. But, Juggy, can you give us a bit of an idea as to what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Juggy Sidhu and I operate the Complete Health Rewire. And the Complete Health Rewire is a program that is designed to help people really elevate themselves in the space of family, health, and growth. And if we can get a clear alignment between these three areas, we find that our members become more fulfilled, they're happier, and they're more confident within themselves. So that's a kind of snapshot as to what we do. We are a multidisciplinary team as well. So although it's me talking to you today, we also have a team of psychologists, injury rehab specialists, personal trainers, nutritionists, and osteopaths. So we actually work across the spectrum when it comes to health and well-being to make sure that everybody's got the tools and the systems to basically be the best versions of themselves. So in a snapshot, that's what we do, but happy to field any questions on the back of it.
Perfect intro. See, I don't even need to say anything. I didn't even bother today.
I've got so many questions. I don't know where to start. First of all, can we start with your title? Why Indian Body Coach? Why have you added that Indian bit to it?
Okay, so really good question. So first of all, no affiliation to the Body Coach. And when I first set up the Indian Body Coach, I didn't even know of Joe Wicks and what he was doing, which is...
I was
yeah. Referring to.
I was like, what is he talking about, the body coach?
Yeah.
So because I get asked that all the time, like, is this something to do with that? And I was like, when I first
just say yes, Juggy. Just say yes. He's done really well with this emotion.
I just said he copied my name. That's what it was. He copied my name. But no, so why Indian? So look, when I got into this career, so if I look back on why I started doing what I do, it was my dad's health that really inspired me to make sure that I understood nutrition, lifestyle, health, so I could help him. When I was younger, when I was about 9-10 years old, he had a autoimmune condition. It came out of nowhere and it completely changed him as a person. And I saw that before my eyes and it had a massive impact on me. It had a massive impact on the way we lived at home, the changes we made with our food. I remember Sunday mornings going from just relaxing to we all went out for family walks and stuff like that. So there were big changes. And I think it was only when I'd gone through university, I'd gone through, anxiety, depression, I'd gone through a poor relationship with alcohol. It wasn't alcohol dependence, but a very poor relationship with alcohol, that I kind of stood back away from it all. And I looked at our community and I looked at the people that needed the most help. And I looked at who I would be able to impact the most with my cultural awareness and understanding. And it was people that look like me. So that's why I support our community.
You said one of the things that you said was people that needed the most help. Are you doing comparison to Asians versus Caucasians, or what do you mean? Do Asians need more help than the rest of the world?
Absolutely. If you look at it just from the statistics, if you're Asian, you're potentially between 4 to 8 times more likely to develop type 2 diabetes. You develop type 2 diabetes at much lower rates of body fat, so a lower BMI index. So if you think about it from that perspective, we do need more help. But also, so if you look at it from a cultural perspective, I feel like we're still learning to accept some of the taboo things that happen within our communities, whether it be alcohol dependence, drug dependence, mental well-being it's being talked about, but I don't think it's being fully understood. And despite the fact that it's being talked about so openly, I work with a community of people that have all said that it's very difficult to come forwards and say that there's struggles or challenges with mental well-being. So when I say we need the most help, I say it anecdotally, but I also say it based on the data out there.
And you said, I wanted to touch on the bit that you said you focus on family. I think you might have answered it, but I want to delve into it. What do you mean by you focus on family?
Because you don't tend to hear that from
Yeah,
people in
that's
the
what I
fitness
like,
industry.
to be honest. Yeah.
I've got 2 young children, 8 and 5, and been married for 11 years now.
Oh my God, we're living the same lives, Juggy. Exactly the same, or nearly.
Are you a coach as well, Bal?
No, well.
But yeah. Look at it from when I say family, it goes it goes upwards, it goes downwards, it goes sideways. So if I look at it from my own life, I've got a brother and sister, both of whom have children. My parents are still with us, and my wife and my children. I need to operate at the highest standard for me personally. And if I can operate at the highest standard for me, then I can support upwards, I can support sideways, and I can support downwards. But also, look at it just from the basics. People talk to me about losing weight, changing their body shape, changing their body composition. And they talk about diets, and they talk about all the failed diets, all the things that they tried in the past. And they typically tend to be things that are completely misaligned to what a family unit would look like. So imagine going home and you're cooking yourself a meal, the husband's having their meal, and the kids are having a completely separate meal.
Taj has a whole story on that one. That's exactly what she was doing.
But that in itself, it doesn't feel like it's a family unit, does it? And ultimately, what does that say about the food that you're feeding yourself versus the food that everybody else is consuming? It's like, I'm having the good stuff, I'm going to give you this. But actually, what relationship does that breed to the family about the foods that we're consuming? Specifically, our Indian food. Like, how many times have you heard that Indian food is unhealthy? And I think that's completely and utterly off the mark. So I could go in loads of different tangents why I say family, but if you're healthy,
I like the family element.
Yeah, if you're healthy, you're fit, you're mentally in a good place, you're in a position where you can come home and make memories and have loads of energy and have loads of fun, then you're spreading happiness, you're spreading that kind of confidence and that joy to everybody around you. You're present in the moment. And that's what I love. I love to help our members feel more present within the moment.
In regards to something you said a bit earlier on, you did talk about mental health, depression, and obviously the fact that your father had a health condition. Now, something that we've touched on many, many times is the fact that most of us are going through very, very similar things, but we don't talk about it. Why did you say, even on this podcast, what made you say, well, I went through this? And is this something you share with your clients as well?
Yeah, 100%. I talk about this all the time because, in fact, without that period of my life, I wouldn't be who I am today. And I absolutely love the fact that sounds odd, but I love the fact that I've gone through these challenges. And I love the fact that I am strong enough and vulnerable enough to actually talk about it in front of people, because it actually inspires other people to talk about it themselves. And it's only when you bring a voice to it that you empower yourself to find a solution. If all of these things are happening under the surface and you're pushing it down and you're repressing it, it will come out in some way, shape, or form. So it may be the way that you react to somebody. It may be anger. It may be emotion. It's there. Everybody can see it anyway, but you just haven't put a voice to what you're really experiencing. And I think the strongest thing you could do is talk about your mental well-being. The strongest thing you could do is be vulnerable. I think that's the most courageous thing anybody could do.
And were you always within fitness? Because although you went through this, you've said it during university and when you were younger, was that something you decided you wanted to do after university, go into fitness?
Do you know what? My first degree that I went to do was environmental science. And yeah, I'd done a lot of work experience with the council, and it just seemed like a very safe place to go because there was so much going on in that space like 12, 13 years ago. So I went and did that for about 6 months. And then one of my lectures, I was sitting there and we were studying radiators. And I was like, this is not me. I don't know what I've done. I've made a massive...
What is environment? I'm pretending that I know what it is. What is environmental science?
Think pollution, think about green science.
You would be very much on trend right now if you were talking about with climate change.
So, you know what? Yeah, that was why. So that's why I got into it, because I could see the trend of what was going on. So I went into environmental science thinking I've got an amazing career ahead of me if I just pursue this. But I was in that lecture, and that was a turning point for me, that this is not what I don't exist for this. This is not who I am. And it was contributing to that feeling of anxiety. It's contributing that feeling of depression and feeling lost, and also experiencing grief with my baba, who was, like my best friend. Ultimately, him passing away had a huge impact on me. And it made me stop and think about...
Can I just say, Juggy, I'm just smiling because that's exactly what I'd say about my bub ideas.
Yeah.
We're living the same lives.
Yeah.
I just need to become as fit as you, and then we're there.
You know
Sorry,
where we
go
are.
on.
If you need some help, you know where we are. But no, honestly, it's like you go through these little turning points and these little moments in life. And when you actually stop to tune into yourself, you realize why you're feeling the way you're feeling. So a big thing for me at that point was I need to step back and I need to reevaluate. I need to reevaluate who I am and why I'm here and what I would like to bring to the world. And that's when I went back to university a year later and went and studied nutrition, health, and exercise. And yeah, I haven't really looked back since then.
If you were saying to someone else that's going through a similar thing, how would you reevaluate yourself? Sit there asking yourself questions, meditate. What is the journey you took to reevaluate yourself?
Stop what you're doing. Just find a way to start, pause. And I actually ask everybody to do this at least once a day. So everybody that we support, everybody we work with, we focus on finding that ability to just be present within those moments, to actually reflect on what you're experiencing, looking back over the day, reflecting what went well, what didn't go so well, where could I do with some more support. And when you answer those 3 questions for yourself, you become very, very clear on what you need to do next and what you're avoiding. I think even when you're answering those questions, you've got to be courageous, because nobody wants to admit that they need support anywhere, right? We're all kind of, raised to think that we need to do it all by ourselves. And when you start to recognize that you don't need to do it by yourself, that you can actually lean on other people and you can progress that way, and you can find people that have already gone through the journey and elevate yourself even quicker by talking to them, by getting supported by them. It just changes the dynamic.
And at what point do your clients come to you? Because, I mean, I will talk about my experience right now, in fact. Over the last few months, I have been getting into fitness. I'm like, and it does, I 100% agree. It brings you, by the way,
You're
I'm
pushing into it this morning, weren't you?
I was going to say, but let's just be clear. Although I'm like, yeah, Juggy, we're exactly the same. We're not, because you are way ahead of it. Because I'm just like, okay, I just walked into the gym today. I kid you not, I walked into the gym because I find it a really daunting place to be. And someone said it earlier today. It's a very testosterone-filled place. But I do classes, and I said to the trainer, I was like, look, I want to start toning. I want to get fit, and it's not just for the look of it, but it very much for me was that mental thing of it helped when I was at very stressful points in my life. And I realized from that it helped. Now, I was on holiday a few weeks ago and I didn't do any exercise. So getting back into the exercise has been a massive thing in itself.
Yeah.
So the question for you is, at what point do people say, actually, I want to get into fitness, I want to make a change, and actually stick to it? That sticking bit is always the tough bit, I find.
Yeah. So I think it just depends on the individual, because we've had people that come through to us when, they get the diagnosis. So the doctor has said, hey, the cholesterol is a bit high right now. We need to do something about it. Do we need to go on medication? And I don't think any of us really want to be on medication. I don't think any of us want to do those sorts of things to ourselves long term. So sometimes it will be that little realization that, hold on, my health isn't where it should be. For other people, it's almost the opposite end of the spectrum, that everything is going really, really well, and they're looking for that extra 1%. What's that extra thing that's going to help them be a real high performer and really take themselves to the next level with their career, with their family, with their investments, whatever it is that they want to actually pursue in life. So we do get people right across that kind of spectrum. But I think most people will come to us when they just sense there's a feeling that something's not quite right. They're not feeling fulfilled. There's maybe a lack of confidence in capability, not just in terms of showing up and doing what you need to do day to day with work or whatever it is with your responsibilities. Just that lack of capability where you're like questioning yourself whether you can do something or whether you should try something new. And I think that should be a real turning point moment with most people, when you recognize that you're stopping yourself from pursuing an opportunity. I think that's where you actually grow the most, when you start to challenge yourself.
Where do you start? Like, for example, someone wants to sign up with you. What is the journey that you take them on? Do you help how do you start? Do you start going straight into exercise? What is the starting point?
I love that. Yeah. Do you know what? Again, it's so individual to the person, but the way that we look at this is we would take somebody through a self-assessment first, and the self-assessment breaks your journey down into physical, physiological, and psychological. So physically, for example, are you able to do the things you want to do in life? Are you happy with what you see in the mirror? Are you happy with what your capabilities are? So most of us should be able to do a 5K run within 30 minutes. And if we can't do, if we can't do that in our 30s or before our 40s, then the impact of that when we're 60 and 70 it's massive. Like, it means that you may not be able to walk up the street without assistance.
So am I over the hill now because I'm over 40? Is it game over?
Yeah, tu shot there, hon. Tu kar.
we do you know the beauty of this is we've got a 58-year-old member that just did a 5K within 27 minutes. And that is insane. Like, bearing in mind that at the start of the year, he couldn't run at all. Like, he could not run.
I've got a question for you there, Juggy. So I have taken up jogging, as our avid listeners will listen to every single week. And what I found was I got to 5K and I was like, okay, I need to do a 10K. Done that. But as soon as I stopped, and I did get lazy because one of my friends challenged me, we did the run. And after that, I didn't have a challenge. And now I haven't been jogging it's been a while, I can't even remember. And within 2 weeks, I'd gone from being able to run 10K and I was still struggling with 5K after 2 weeks. So our bodies go back to such a bad habit so quickly. I turned around, I was like, oh my God, those months of hard work, it bloody well wasn't worth it, was it? But why is the body like that? Why does it fall so quickly to, back to the less than 5K? What was that?
Think about this though. So the body will adapt and maladapt quite quickly depending on its situation, on its scenario. So if you're giving it a specific challenge to work towards, then it's going to adapt to that challenge. But a big part of running is mentally pushing yourself. So physically, you probably could still do that 10K, but some of that, if I said to you, look, you need to do this 10K because if you don't, everything around you is going to collapse. You will find the resources to make that happen, right? When you've got a partner system or a buddy system going on there as well, there's a level of accountability going on. You will find a way. When it is like a less pressured environment, when you're just kind of relying on your own willpower, your own drivers, your own, let's say, motivation, then we'll see a bit of a decline there. So your physical performance may drop off. The other side of that is after you've done the 10K, a lot of people get to the top of a mountain and then instead of thinking about climbing the next mountain, they just topple back down it.
They roll all the way back down.
Yeah. So I always say to our members, you're most at risk when you've achieved a massive success within the space of a journey because it's so easy to look backwards and roll back down. It's harder to set the next one, but that's what keeps you going. That's what keeps you focused.
So the point is, have the next run ready. 100%. Okay, I will get on here and register straight after this podcast.
And then talking about running, me and my wife, we were driving past a sign in Rugby. So we were just driving and I saw a sign for a half marathon. And I was like, so we've done no training and the half marathon's in like a week's time.
Don't give me this story. Don't tell me you did half a marathon.
Yeah, we registered there and then.
You two are the same. I'm sorry, there's too many similarities.
No, see, I don't think half a marathon is 21K. There is no way.
Oh, you did some. Oh, you done it less.
Yeah. So did you both do it then?
We both did it. We both got to the end of it.
God.
But again, do you know what we did as well? Is we created an immense level of accountability because I told 150 of our members that this is what we're doing. Yeah, and the moment you put it out there, you don't back. And that's the thing. It's like you've got to create something behind your journey, like a real meaning, a purpose, and a why. Because if you don't, then it's so easy to just give up, right? It's so easy to lose motivation. You've got to strive for discipline.
Okay, so you've just led me to another part of the question. I have seen your Instagram and your wife is very much a part of that journey.
Yeah, but I had to for not inviting her, to be honest.
I was like, why is she not here? Like, hello, why isn't she here, Juggy? I mean...
Do you know what? I think she deserves her own space. Honestly, she's such an incredible woman.
We'll get her on as well then. Yeah. Okay, so can you talk me through that? Because one thing with us, yes, I've done the jogging, And I've done it with one of my friends, who, by the way, is a marathon runner. So I was like, if you're going to go jogging, why not go with a marathon runner?
Yeah.
But Charlie, she's just always like, oh, come on, man, do another 2K. I'm like, I'm dying. But anyway, it's fine. She comes with me anyway. But having that relationship that you have with your wife, where you are your accountability partners, talk us through that, because I love that.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Do you know what? It's not always been that way. Jussie's not massively into health and fitness. She's never really been like a avid gym goer. But I think honestly, have her on as a guest, because if you hear her story and what she's experienced in life and where she is right now, she's truly an inspiring woman, and she deserves, honestly, more. If we look at the accountability side of things, so when I asked Jussie, what do you want to do here? Like, why are you going to the gym? Why are you training? Why are you looking after yourself? Why is that important? And she said that she wants our boys, so we've got 2 boys, to look up at her and see a strong, powerful role model. Not just that, daddy's in shape and daddy's got abs and blah, blah, blah. It's actually, she can actually do her own thing. She's got her own strength, her own kind of ability to inspire them, her own ability to keep up with them, to have that energy to go and play with them, to go into the garden and kick a ball around, even though she hates football. But she would do these things, right? Yeah. So in terms of like the accountability, we can sit down now on a Saturday and say, well, what are we going to eat for the week? What are we going to do in terms of managing our time? We can't always both go to the gym at the same time. So, okay, if we've got the kids pick up at a certain time, when can you go? When can I go? When are you going to see your friends this week? When am I going to see my friends this week? Because socializing is as much as health as going to a gym. So actually being able to proactively plan these things, put them into the diary, talk through the challenges, that's what drives the accountability between us, because we've already mapped it out. We know what the week looks like in advance. But I think it comes down to, you could spend an hour and a half on a Sunday just sitting there watching Netflix, or you could spend half an hour setting yourself up for success for the rest of your week. And that's what we choose to do.
So you do sit down every week. I think that's fantastic. I've heard this. I'm going to give it a go. But that's quite a big thing, because I find the planning is the hardest thing. Like I said, I walked into the gym, I walked back out, I said, I will be back with a plan.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm not very good at planning. So the fact that you're both doing it every week, that's pretty good.
Yeah. It's success ritual. Like, if one of us don't do it, if we don't show up and do that planning session together, we're leaving the whole week up to chance. Yeah. It's like, it's using the word hope. I hope I'm going to get to the gym this week. I hope I'm going to eat well this week, versus I am going to go to the gym 3 times this week, and these are the 3 sessions that I'm going to do. When you've got that level of power behind the intent, you're going to follow through. If you're going through the week and just hoping for the best, you're going to be reactive, and you're going to be taken away and led by whatever is going on around you.
So just to turn the subject a bit, it's not too off the topic, but the mental health side of things.
Yes.
You said that you've suffered from anxiety, depression. Now, when someone's in that low place, the last thing they want to do is go and exercise. So how do you motivate yourself to get up and just do it?
I think the first thing is you've got to deal with what you're experiencing, right? So a big thing for us is, obviously we have a team of psychologists, but why is that important? Because I am a massive advocate of mental well-being, of exploring psychology. So I've seen psychologists since I was the age of like 23, 24 years old. I'm pushing 36 now. So I've seen somebody probably once every year at some point for a certain period of time. Now, the beauty of that is it allows you to understand why you're thinking the way you're thinking. So it takes you back to who you truly are, your values, who you identify as. And when you're clear on that, you can start to make decisions that align to it, or you make decisions that don't align to it. But you've actually just got a fork in the road there, right? So you've got an ability to do all the right things, or the ability to do all the wrong things. So that's how I choose to live my decision making. It's like a decision tree in everything that I do. If I'm going to go out on a Friday night, do I want to wake up on Saturday morning and have to take the kids to their football classes feeling low in energy, underperform, unhappy? Or do I want to wake up and feel full of energy, full of vibrancy, and do all the right things so that we can have some fun the next day? So always living with that decision tree in your mind of, this is what's going to move me forwards to who I want to be, versus this is what's going to move me away from the person I want to show up as.
That process of the good way of doing it or the bad way. Now, in the real world, we all know what's good. You eat everything that's green. Don't eat anything that's brown. That's chocolate, obviously. But we know that. But a majority of society is very much like, okay, don't worry, we'll deal with that tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's although it sounds so easy to make that, yes, I want to do the good thing, it's a very, very hard thing to do. And now, if we're going back to Taj's question, where there is something to do with mental health involved, that decision becomes even harder to make.
Yes.
So how do you talk to your clients to say, make the right decisions? Because most of us are making the wrong decisions.
What was the step that was missing when you described that? What was the step?
Stopping? Thinking? Oh God, I feel like I'm in a test.
Planning? Yeah. I don't know. Was it the stopping? That sounds like...
Yeah, so the introspection was missing, right? So understanding who you are, what you want from life, what your identity is, your values, your belief systems. So if you're not aware of those things, then how do you know whether you're making decisions that are aligned to the right way of doing things or the wrong way to do things?
But surely, as a person, we tend to know we're supposed to be exercise, we're supposed to eat healthy. So as a simplified version, yes, it would be based on our values. However, in society, the first thing you do on a New Year's resolution is, I'm going to become really healthy and fit.
Yeah. But
as a basic.
You use the perfect word there, which is like supposed to do or have to do. So these are almost constructs of what people expect of you rather than what you expect of yourself. So I don't see going to the gym as something that I'm supposed to do, I have to do. I do it because it aligns to who I want to be. Right? I don't sit here eating chocolate after chocolate, biscuit after biscuit. It doesn't mean I never eat those foods, but I don't have a lot of those foods in my dietary intake, but because that doesn't align to who I want to be or how I want to feel.
Can you give me an example of, you've used the word values, and a lot of people say values. Give me a few examples of that, and it sounds such a silly question, but what are we talking about when we're talking about values or who we want to be? What does that mean?
Do you know what? I've boiled it down to 3 things for myself. And this, do you know what? I used to have a list of values that was like 20 values long, and you can't remember all of them. When you're
with 20, that would be tough.
Yeah. What are your values? I'm like, okay. So then it was literally this year that I sat back. We went on a break. So we went to Greece together, and all the family there, my mum and dad, the kids, Jussie. And I said to Jussie that, one of the days I was like, do you mind taking the boys? I just need about 3 hours. I'm just going to go for a walk, and then I'll come and meet you. Let me know where you're going to be. And I sat there with a notepad, a pen and paper, and I just went for a really long walk along the beach. And I realized that everything that I do aligns to 3 things, which is family, health, and growth. And you know, at the start, when you said, what do you do? That's what I do. That's how I help other people understand what their true values are, because I'm living towards my own in everything that I do, whether it be the way I operate at home or the way that I operate within work or the way that my business operates, family, health, and growth. So they're my 3 values. Attached to that are so many other different things, right? So if I say growth, what does that really mean? Growth to me means being resilient. So that could be a value within itself. It could be education. In itself, that's a value, but it's something that I'm really pushed by. I love to learn. I love to be around people that inspire me, that mentor me, that give me a different perspective on life. Growth could also be, okay, what do I need to do to actually give my family the life that I want them to live? So there's so many different aspects within each one.
But the fact that you've keyed that to your business and you've got clients, would you say those 3 values, yes, you can go further in and they've got more of their own sub values?
Yeah.
Do you think those are the 3 values, especially in an Asian, I'm going to say an Indian, because you've Indian coach.
Yeah.
Do you think those are the sort of 3 values that most of us hold? Most of us, not all of us, of course.
They're my values. If people align to that, it's probably because they're inspired by what they see me do and what I do, what I deliver in terms of the members that we support. Not everybody in the program that I'm working with right now align to those values. I can be very clear with that because we actually go through this as part of the program. We actually delve into this in a lot of detail. So whether that be with the psychology team, whether that be with myself directly, there's a lot of people that have different values that we need to align towards within their journey. It's like somebody saying that health is a massive value of mine, but then they're eating chippy every night, or they're having chocolate with every single meal, and they haven't been to a gym for 3 years. You can't say that health is a value, because
But do
your
you know
actions speak louder.
what's interesting I found is as soon as I do get into that whole, right now I'm not there, but into going to the gym, you don't actually feel like eating that rubbish either. It
Yeah,
seems to be a mental thing. You just don't want to. It's
yeah,
really interesting, isn't it? How the
yeah,
body works in itself.
yeah, 100%. And I think this is the thing, when you take, it's almost like that first domino. So if you're going to push a domino or a string of dominoes, you have to push the first one to create the momentum for the rest of it. So we often say to people, what is your first domino going to be? Is it you're going to wake up in the morning, you're going to go to the gym? Or is it you're going to have the right breakfast, something that you know is going to nourish you? And on the back of it, you feel better, you've got more energy, and then you want to make more positive decisions for yourself. So what's that first domino? And this, again, it comes down to planning, right? Because, with kids, if you wake up in the morning and they're ratty, you immediately start getting ratty, and then it starts to kind of snowball from there.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I know my 8-year-old did not want to get out of bed this morning. He'd played football yesterday, low energy, whatever it was. But yeah, if I'd not woken up at least 45 minutes to an hour before him to set my mind up for how I wanted to live today, I could have woken up alongside him and just gone with the way he was feeling. So it's so important to just know, what is that first domino for you?
And in regards to nutrition, do you have set plans for everyone? Does everyone, or is it everyone just eats the same thing and you follow this,
Oh, that'd
7
be
days you
awful.
eat healthy, healthy, healthy?
I imagine
Is
that.
that
No, that'd be
realistic?
awful. No, honestly, it'd be horrible to think like that. I mean, there's foods that I absolutely hate eating. And imagine if you put that on a program that I had to eat it in a plan because everybody else is getting results. It'd be awful. Even if I look at nutrition and the way we work it, you can probably tell how individualized everything is that we do. Because if we're going to align your whole life towards your values, you better believe we're going to do the same with your nutrition. So we actually look at 7 to 14 days of what you're currently doing. So
Mhm.
what is working well for you? What isn't working well for you? What drove the decisions behind certain foods that you chose? How did you feel afterwards? What was your energy like? What was your digestion like? Did you sleep well that night? So if you start to actually break it down and ask the right questions, you understand what that individual needs to eat. And then you can educate. So rather than me coming to you and say, look, we're at 0 right now and we need to be at 100 tomorrow, I'd rather give you the stepping stones to get you there. And ultimately, do we ever really need to be at the optimal end of nutrition? Like, we're not athletes, right? We're human beings. We've got
Yeah.
families, right? We don't need to be Cristiano Ronaldo. We don't need to be at that elite level nutrition. But what I would say is, if we know what that elite level is and we're educated to get to that point, you're more likely to make more informed decisions along the way. So you're actually empowered with that education rather than just following a plan and then not knowing how to adapt it if your scenario changes, if your circumstances change. So that's a big ethos for mine, is if I'm going to take on a lot of education, I want to educate you guys too.
Do you know what the tough thing is? For years, me and my husband be like, "Yep, we're going to make a plan. We're going to make a plan. We're going to make a plan." Especially for the food that we eat, because I know the food, unless it's fast to make. Even now, I'm like, "Oh man, what I'm going to make for dinner? That's going to be a lot."
Yeah.
But it's it's the planning that is the tough thing yeah. What do I do? This planning thing's a real pain, but it's definitely the most important part of it, isn't it?
Yeah. Knowing what to do is huge. Having the confidence in what you're about to do, again, that's huge. If you're not confident with what you're about to do, then you're not going to follow through with it. So if
Mm,
I said to you, look, you need to go and run, 50 miles tomorrow, right? You're not going to follow through with it because you're not confident that your body can actually handle that. So
mm,
you've got to build the confidence first. And a big part of that is being educated. Like planning as well. You're not going to do it unless you see the significance of it beyond that half an hour that you're about to spend planning.
yeah.
Right. So yeah, there's different avenues to that.
And you say that you have people coming to you with different health issues. Do you work alongside any, I don't know, you said you work with nutritionists, but do they work with, what is the kind of people that you come with and what kind of health issues do they have? You said diabetes, which is
Yeah.
a really common one in the community.
Yeah, diabetes, high cholesterol, hypertension, more recently, a lot more cases of non-alcohol fatty liver disease. So that's been on the rise. But again, it's kind of linked to the other metabolic diseases that are, being experienced within our communities. Mental well-being, again, a massive part of what we do. But yeah, I think a lot of people are also just on the borderline and they didn't even realize, because we actively send
Yeah.
people to get blood tests before working with us. How would we know what to do with your nutrition if we don't know what physiologically your body needs?
Can I just say on that, Juggy, I think that's a really important point. So I found out just a little while ago
Mm.
that I am on the borderline for cholesterol. And I'm like, how is that possible? I mean, I stay fit. I think my diet's pretty good. And
Yeah.
I was shocked. I had to do a second one just to make sure they didn't screw it up the first time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
apparently it's true. So it's not hard to get past that borderline, especially being South Asian, which is quite scary in itself.
Do you know what? There's a certain amount of people that have just avoided getting a blood test because they don't want to see the numbers. They genuinely don't want to see that data reflecting how they feel. The other side of it is some people just didn't even know. We've had people in their 20s come to us and they've got underlying health issues that they had zero idea about, because when would you ever just go and get a blood test unless somebody told you to go and get it done?
It's definitely important. I mean, I just randomly did it and that came up.
Yeah.
Just in regards to the fact that obviously a lot of our listeners are from the South Asian community. Now, we started off by saying, look, they are your target audience as well. And there's been a reason for that. Do you think things are changing within the South Asian community where we know that we need to stay fit, but do you think us as a community are taking active steps to get healthier, to stay fit, to eat the right foods?
Not enough, if I'm perfectly honest.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, look, I mean, I went and spoke at a Godwara and we talked about mental health, and like 10 years ago, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Like just the fact that we're talking about mental health. 10 years ago, I asked communities if I could come in and talk about nutrition, and I got told there's not really an audience for that. And I find that quite interesting.
Can I say something? This is something that's been really interesting. Over the last few weeks, we've really been talking about specifically men's mental health, but mental health in general. But one thing that's been quite clear from our listener figures and the sort of feedback we're getting, although people think that people aren't talking about it, they were actually one of the most listened to podcasts that we've had, men's mental health.
Yeah.
So who knows what people are actually thinking to what they were actually saying.
Okay, I'll share a really interesting observation from my side, which is, so I talk about mental health and men's mental health a lot, and they're probably the most or least liked posts or least engaged with posts on social media. But when I speak to somebody one-to-one, they say, that post really resonated with me.
Yeah.
And it's, okay, that really, so it had an impact on you, but you didn't like it and you didn't comment on it. You didn't say, because I know mental health is a very personal thing, but it's also a sign of weakness to say that actually I resonated with that. Because what if somebody sees you, right? And this is one of the things that it's almost like we're on two ends of the spectrum. We know that it's been talked about more, but how many people are actually actively kind of pursuing the services that they need, and how many people are holding themselves back through shame and guilt?
And that's something massive within our community.
We've seen similar things as well, and we've seen quite a lot of females ask about what maybe their husband, their spouse, about their mental health. So you get the female asking rather than the male themselves.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing.
Do you know what I get a lot is the female reaching out on behalf of the male.
Yeah.
Because the male didn't want to admit that they needed help.
With ours, I understand, we're two women, and I get perhaps why they listened to it, perhaps didn't engage. But with yourself, you are very fit. You talk about health. Throughout this whole podcast, we've very much spoken about mental health more than, the physical health, which I wasn't expecting at all.
Yeah.
So what's surprising to me is people don't open up to you despite that, the fact that you are so open.
Oh, they talk about it one-to-one. When I speak to somebody face to face, that's when it all comes out. Or when we have a coaching call or something along those lines, or if somebody's interested in the program, within 5 minutes, we're having a really deep level conversation around what that means to them. But I think outwardly on socials, it's never really going to happen. But I think it doesn't need to be in that environment. It could just be at home. Like, can you speak to your family members about it? Can you speak to your best friends about it? I say that to the kind of guys that I work with quite a bit. Would you have this conversation with the lads? Would you have these conversations with your 5 closest friends? And often the answer is no, because I don't want to feel alone. I don't want to feel guilty. I don't want to feel shamed. I don't want to feel that
Can
fear.
I? Do you feel any of those? Because you went straight in there.
I
And
don't.
what's different? What's
Yeah.
different with the fact that now I'm delving into your psychology? But why don't you? But most of the rest of that, including us, what's made you talk about it, and a lot of people not talk about it?
I've embraced it. Like it's part of my journey. Like if I didn't have that, would I be able to speak, or would I be able to support people at the level that I speak to them and support them at today? I don't think so. So I think what I experienced and what I learned from it has given me an immense level of emotional intelligence that allows me to do what I do a much better standard than even where I was like 10, 15 years ago, when I first started, where all of this would have been closeted up and hidden away. And you would just be talking to me about calories and macros today.
Yeah.
There's a much deeper conversation that needs to be had, right?
It's almost like accepting it and then working with it and improving yourself and thinking, like you said, it's part of the parcel, and make yourself grow.
Yeah,
in the next
100%.
step.
Like every experience, you can see it in two ways, right? Did it happen to you or it taught you something? So every experience, like you could, you will face immense level of challenges within your life. But if you don't own it and you don't learn from it and you don't take responsibility, then it's just going to have happened to you. And it's going to be another one of those things that held you back from being the person you wanted to be. And I choose to allow everything that I've experienced to elevate me and push me forwards. And genuinely, I'm grateful for all of it because I'm helping people today that I would not have been able to help 10, 15 years ago.
Do you know what I love? It's that learning aspect of it. I agree. I think if you haven't learned from any conversation that you've had, any experience you've had, then that's been a missed opportunity. And that's how I'm starting to look at life. And that's been quite recent for me to think of things like that. So it's very interesting. As we come to the end of this podcast, I'm going to ask you for some serious practical tips, going right back to, you've spoken about value, you've spoken about planning and then executing. What do I need to do, Juggy? Where am I going from here? I know I want to stay fit. I am starting to, I went into the gym. I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah.
But what do I need to do to make this happen?
Yeah. Look, I'll go back to one of the questions you asked me earlier, which was, how do you know where to start? So we break it down to the physical, physiological, and psychological. All three of those things are intertwined. But if you can understand which one is the biggest limiting factor to your progress right now, that's where we need to start. It could be as simple as you need to get 8 hours of sleep. You need to make sure that you're sleeping properly. So can we spend that 30 minutes before you go to bed properly unwinding, off technology, not distracting yourself, not numbing the voices and the things and the thoughts that are going on in your mind, and actually just embrace those things. Listen to yourself so you can sleep better. So that's a kind of thing that I would say to kick off with. If you're really going to be serious about making a change, you can't do 100 things at once. Be very clear on what the number one priority is.
Can I say that's actually one of the toughest things, making sure you get that 8 hours. And I've spoken to so many people about this and actually getting off technology. Oh my God, it's so easy to say, isn't it, Juggy? Sorry, I know I totally
interrupted. Do you know what?
Outro.
No, one of the things that I've asked a lot of people is, what's your hobby? What do you like doing? And most people say they like to travel or they like to go to the gym. And I was like, well, you're going to the gym to achieve a very specific goal. You're not going to the gym because you love it and that's the place you want to spend all your time. The other side of that is most people can't go on holiday every day, right?
Yeah.
You can't. So are you going to literally have a hobby that you can only do once every 4, 5, 6 months? No, you need to have something you can do every single day that you love, that allows you to escape from your reality, that you enjoy. And sometimes it is just go back to what made you feel happy when you were a kid. If I said to you right now, when you were 8, 9, 10 years old, what was something that you did that you never had to be asked to do? You just loved doing it.
Playing.
Oh, this is a great one. So one of our members, the first habit that I've given her, she started this week, go outside and play basketball for 5 minutes. And she started it. And the beauty of that is she came back to me and she said, I feel calmer already. We don't play anymore as adults.
No,
we almost think that's for the kids to do.
Yeah.
What the other things that came up? I like to color. Okay, well, can we get a coloring book? Why can't we spend 5 minutes just unwinding with a coloring book? I like to listen to music. What music? listen to it. Like, when was the last time you just sat there and you listened to the music and you danced away with it?
Okay, so I'm the only thing I could think, and this is so bad, you're going to be like, what a loser. Just watching a good, really stupid TV program. But I know that's unhealthy, especially just before bed. But I still enjoy it. I still do it.
Well, can we adapt it? Can we put the blue light glasses on where it blocks the blue light coming in?
There's blue light glasses.
Yeah, I've got some in the opposite end of my desk right now. But yeah,
I didn't know that, so we're going to be checking that after the podcast finished. Didn't know we had those.
Exactly.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Okay, so I totally interrupted your outro. So go on, carry on, Juggy.
No,
what else would you say to people?
Okay, so from a physical standpoint then, so I have a very clear goal as to what your end point would look like and what it would feel like for you. So not everybody wants to be six-pack lean, and not everybody wants to have a beach body. Some people just like to be capable of doing certain things. So our members, for example, in July, we went and climbed Ben Nevis. We raised £10,000 for Cancer Aid. So we did something big for our community. Mm-hmm. Now, the climbing of Ben Nevis, it's almost symbolic in a way to be able to say that I can overcome this massive challenge ahead of me, and I can do it in a day. But then when you take all the lessons that you learn from climbing a mountain and you apply it to day-to-day life, it's incredible. But we can't all do that every single day. What's the one thing that would move us towards a big challenge? What's the one thing that would actually take us in that direction? So think about what your North Star is physically and almost reverse engineer that process. What's the first thing you need to be able to do? Like, if you can't run without shin splints, the first thing you need to be able to do is strengthen the arches within your feet. Okay, so this is where you can get really specific and really clear with programming, because you know what that individual wants to be capable of, and you also know the rate limiting steps to that. Okay. Nutritionally speaking, I know I'm going off on a bit of a rant now.
No, go for it.
Nutritionally speaking, just assess, sit back. You know the questions I asked earlier. So why did I eat what I ate? How do I feel during the food that I'm eating? Am I even present? Like, am I eating this food ad hoc, just randomly putting food into my mouth whilst I'm on my laptop replying to emails? Or am I mindful in this moment? Am I actually taking note of what I'm consuming and how it's making me feel? Now, some people find that quite difficult to actually ask themselves how things make them feel. Your resting heart rate doesn't really lie. So if you eat food that isn't really aligned to you and it impacts your digestion, your resting heart rate will increase. You'll notice that. You'll be able to see the numbers increase. You'll notice when you're feeling a bit uncomfortable in the afternoons because your energy is slumped, or you're going to the toilet more often, or your bowel movements aren't what they should be. So you'll notice all these things, but you don't probably take note of these things. You'll notice them, but you don't take note. So first things first, start to note how you're feeling down. That's the only way you're going to be able to make positive changes with that. Mentally, mindset, I don't think everybody's going to be able to really go into values alone. I don't think it's an easy thing to do, because even when we do it with our members, we have to ask a lot of probing questions to get them to where they need to be. I think just checking in with yourself. Can you give yourself a 5 to 10 minute space within your day to journal? 5 minutes? Can you drive to work and maybe speak these things out loud? Ask yourself the tough questions whilst you're driving. Can you habit stack that against something else that you ordinarily do? Like when you're going for a walk, instead of listening to music and instead of listening to podcasts and radio, could you just give yourself some mental space so you can think about what you're really thinking about? That's where I would start from a mental health perspective. And honestly, within our community, the biggest thing you can learn to say is no. Say no.
Agree with that one. No, I'm not going to say that.
It feels so uncomfortable. It feels so. The majority of people, if they learn to say no, they would have so much more energy, so much more headspace. They wouldn't be questioning themselves nearly as much. Their self-esteem wouldn't be where it is.
But can I just say one thing I have learned? I can't say no, so just stay away from those people that will ask you questions where you have to say yes that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Just a little tip for there.
But I think that in itself is a strategy.
Yeah.
But the strategy will get you so far. When you get really comfortable with saying no to things that don't align to you or align to the people that are important to you, it's so liberating. It's something I've had to learn. I've said yes to a lot of things that are then come back to bite me in the backside. I shouldn't swear.
I'll say you can say it, Dora. You should hear some of the words that I come up. Anyway, thank you so much, Juggy. I've got so much to think about. I just need to go away and plan. That's what I need to do. I need to sit my husband down and make him do it as well.
Yeah.
But thank you for your time. We have learnt so much, and I think there's so much more I can ask you, but we'll probably ask you once we've pressed stop. You're going to be like, bloody hell, just leave me alone now.
There's so much food for thought. It's amazing, and gone down an avenue that I didn't think that we were going to go down, like Bal said. So thank you for your time.
No, I appreciate it, and appreciate the probing questions as well. I think the more conversations we have like this, the better it's going to be for everybody. And yeah, if anybody's listening to this and they do have any questions, like, come and find me. We'll have a chat.
Perfect. That's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from you.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, changing_suits, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.